Long ago, in a land broken by war, Britain had no true king. Small lords fought each other for power, and the people lived in fear and confusion. Villages burned, roads were unsafe. Nobody could unite the land, and many believed peace would never return. In this dark time, a wise and mysterious man named Merlin walked through the kingdom, watching everything with quiet, careful eyes. He knew something the other lords did not know. Destiny was already moving, even if no one could see it yet. Deep in the heart of the land, a great stone appeared in a churchyard, as if it had grown from the earth itself. Inside the stone was a sword, shining even without sunlight, its blade sharp and perfect. Around the stone, golden letters appeared, carved by no human hand. The words said that whoever could pull the sword from the stone was the true and rightful king of all Britain. Many strong knights came. Many powerful lords tried. They pulled with all their strength, their faces red with effort, but the sword did not move, not even slightly. Years passed. The stone remained. And somewhere in the kingdom, an ordinary young boy was growing up, not knowing that his whole life was about to change forever, and that the fate of Britain rested quietly in his hands. In a small castle far from the churchyard, a young boy named Arthur lived a simple life. He was not a prince. He was not even considered important. He served as a squire to his older foster brother Kay, cleaning armor, carrying weapons, and running errands without complaint. Arthur did not know his true parents. He did not know that royal blood ran through his veins. He only knew hard work and quiet humility, and somehow this made him kind in a way most nobles were not. One day, Kay and his father traveled to a great tournament where knights would compete for honor and glory. Arthur went with them, excited to watch the greatest warriors in the land. But when they arrived, Kay realized he had forgotten his sword at their lodging, and he sent Arthur running back to fetch it. Arthur hurried through the crowded streets, worried he would disappoint his brother. But when he arrived, the lodging was locked, and no one answered his calls. Desperate, Arthur remembered the strange stone in the nearby churchyard, the one with the sword no man could remove. Without thinking of destiny or legends, only of helping his brother, Arthur ran toward the stone, hoping to borrow the sword just this once, never imagining that his simple act of kindness was about to reveal the truth of who he truly was. Arthur stood before the great stone, alone in the quiet churchyard. He did not know about the prophecy carved in golden letters nearby. He simply saw a sword, and he needed a sword for his brother. He placed both hands on the handle, took a deep breath, and pulled. To his surprise, the sword slid out of the stone as easily as if it had been resting in soft sand, with no resistance at all. Arthur felt no magic, no lightning, no thunder, only the simple satisfaction of finally holding what he came for. He ran back to the tournament, sword in hand, and gave it to Kay without a second thought. But Kay looked at the sword and immediately recognized it. His face turned pale with shock. He knew exactly what this sword was, and he understood, with fear and amazement, what it meant. Kay rushed to find his father, showing him the sword, explaining where Arthur had found it. The father's eyes widened in disbelief. He commanded Arthur to return to the stone and place the sword back exactly as it was. Arthur, confused but obedient, did as he was told. Then, one by one, the strongest knights tried again to pull the sword from the stone, but none of them could move it, not even slightly. Only when Arthur reached out and pulled it again, easily, effortlessly, did everyone finally understand the true King of Britain was not a powerful lord or a famous warrior, but a humble young squire who had only wanted to help his brother. Word spread quickly across the kingdom that a boy had pulled the sword from the stone, and many powerful lords refused to believe it. They had spent their lives training for war, building armies and dreaming of the crown, and they could not accept that an unknown squire, with no royal blood they knew of, could simply become king by pulling a sword. Anger and jealousy spread among the nobles. Some openly rebelled, refusing to bow before Arthur, calling him a fraud, a trick played by clever priests. Wars nearly broke out between rival lords who each believed they deserved the throne more than a common boy. In this dangerous moment, Merlin stepped forward, revealing the truth that had been hidden for years. Arthur, he explained, was not simply a squire. He was the secret son of the previous king, hidden away as a baby to protect him from enemies who wished to kill any royal heir. Merlin had arranged for Arthur to be raised in secret, without knowing his true identity, so that when the moment came, he would prove himself worthy through his heart, not his birth. This revelation shocked the kingdom. Slowly, lord by lord, the doubters began to kneel, recognizing that destiny itself had chosen this young man. But not everyone accepted this truth peacefully, and Arthur understood that becoming king was only the beginning of a much harder battle to unite a broken land. Though many lords eventually accepted Arthur as king, peace did not come easily. Rebel armies gathered in the north, refusing to bow to a ruler they still saw as unworthy. Arthur, now wearing the crown but still young and inexperienced, faced his first true test as a leader. He gathered loyal knights around him, men who believed in his goodness even before they believed in his right to rule, and together they prepared for war. The rebel forces were larger and better prepared, led by proud lords who had spent decades building their armies. Arthur knew that raw strength alone would not win this battle. He needed something more. A spark that would inspire his soldiers to fight not out of duty but out of true belief. On the night before the great battle, Arthur walked alone through his camp, speaking quietly with tired soldiers, listening to their fears, sharing his own doubts honestly, instead of hiding behind false confidence. This honesty, this humility from a king, moved his men deeply. The next morning, when the two armies finally clashed on the battlefield, Arthur fought not from the safety of the back lines, but at the very front, sword raised high, leading by example rather than commanding from a distance. His courage inspired his soldiers to fight beyond their limits and slowly through blood and sacrifice. Arthur's smaller army began pushing back the much larger rebel force, proving that true kingship was earned through actions, not simply granted through birth or magic swords. After winning the battle, Arthur returned to his castle as a respected king, but he knew that swords and battles alone could not build a lasting kingdom. He needed wisdom, fairness, and a way to bring together knights who had once been enemies, uniting them under one shared purpose. It was Merlin who suggested a powerful and simple idea: a round table with no head and no end, where every knight would sit as equals, no one above another, no one below. This idea shocked many old nobles who believed that power should always have a clear hierarchy, but Arthur understood something deeper. If knights felt equal, they would fight for each other, not just for personal glory. He invited the greatest knights from across the land, including former rivals who had once fought against him, offering them honor and respect instead of punishment for their past rebellion. Slowly, one by one, brave and skilled warriors arrived at Camelot, drawn by stories of a king who ruled with fairness rather than fear. Among them came knights who would become legends themselves, men whose names would be remembered for centuries. Around this round table, Arthur established rules of honor: protect the weak, tell the truth, show mercy to enemies who surrendered, and always fight for justice rather than personal gain. This simple wooden table, unlike any throne before it, became the true symbol of Arthur's reign, a place where loyalty was built not through fear, but through genuine respect and shared purpose. Among Arthur's knights, one man stood above all others in skill and reputation: Sir Lancelot, a warrior so skilled with a sword that few could match him in any duel. Lancelot became Arthur's closest friend and most trusted knight, fighting bravely in every battle, defending the kingdom with unmatched loyalty and courage. But even the strongest bonds can hide dangerous secrets. Lancelot began to feel deep affection for Guinevere, Arthur's beloved queen, a feeling he tried desperately to hide, knowing it could destroy everything he cared about. Guinevere, caught between respect for her husband and undeniable feelings for Lancelot, struggled silently, torn by guilt and confusion. For years, this hidden truth remained buried beneath duty and loyalty. But secrets like this rarely stay hidden forever. Whispers began spreading through the castle halls. Quiet suspicions among servants and nobles who noticed lingering glances and careful distances. Between the queen and the knight, Arthur focused on protecting his kingdom from outside threats, remained unaware of the storm quietly building within his own castle walls. This hidden conflict, born from love and loyalty in painful competition with each other, would eventually grow into a crack that threatened to break apart everything Arthur had worked so hard to build. proving that even the strongest kingdoms can be threatened not just by outside enemies, but by the quiet, painful truths hidden within their own hearts. Eventually, the truth about Lancelot and Guinevere could no longer stay hidden. Enemies within the castle, jealous of Arthur's power and Lancelot's fame, used this secret as a weapon, revealing the betrayal publicly in front of the entire court. Arthur felt his world collapse in an instant. The wife he loved and the friend he trusted more than any other had betrayed him together, and the pain cut deeper than any sword wound he had ever received in battle. The kingdom split into two sides, some supporting Arthur's right to justice, others sympathizing with Lancelot and Guinevere's genuine love. Arthur, torn between his broken heart and his duty as king, faced an impossible choice. If he punished them harshly, he would lose the love and respect many still held for Lancelot and Guinevere. If he forgave them completely, some would see him as weak, unable to enforce his own laws even within his own family. While Arthur struggled with this painful decision, an even greater threat emerged from the shadows. Mordred, a bitter and ambitious man secretly connected to Arthur's own past, saw this moment of division as the perfect opportunity to seize the throne for himself. Mordred spread lies, deepened divisions among the knights, and slowly built his own army from those who felt betrayed or abandoned during the chaos. The kingdom that Arthur had built with such care and sacrifice now stood on the edge of complete destruction, threatened not by foreign invaders, but by the painful consequences of love, betrayal, and ambition growing within its own walls. Mordred's rebellion grew stronger every day, feeding on the kingdom's pain and addition. He gathered soldiers who felt forgotten, knights who resented Arthur's mercy toward Lancelot, and ambitious lords hungry for power during this moment of weakness. Arthur, heartbroken, but still every inch a king, understood that he could not let his personal pain destroy the kingdom he had spent his life protecting. He gathered his remaining loyal knights, men who still believed in the values of the Round Table, and prepared for what would become the final battle of his reign. The two armies met on a wide, cold field, the air thick with tension and sorrow rather than the excitement of earlier battles. This war felt different, heavier, because it was not against foreign invaders, but against a broken piece of Arthur's own family and legacy. The battle raged fiercely, knight against knight, former brothers now forced to fight each other because of ambition and betrayal. Arthur, despite his age and his exhaustion, fought bravely at the front of his army, refusing to hide while his men risked their lives. In the chaos of battle, Arthur finally faced Mordred directly, sword against sword, king against traitor. Their duel was brutal and desperate, each blow carrying years of pain, betrayal, and broken trust. In the end, Arthur struck the fatal blow that ended Mordred's rebellion, but not without terrible cost. For Mordred's own blade had found its mark as well, wounding Arthur deeply in the final moments of their fight, a wound that would prove impossible to heal. As the battle ended and silence slowly returned to the battlefield, Arthur lay wounded among the fallen, his loyal knights gathering around him with grief in their eyes. He knew, with the calm acceptance of a man who had lived fully, that his time as king was coming to an end. He asked one final favor from his most trusted remaining knight: to take his legendary sword to a nearby lake and return it to the mysterious waters from which it had first come, completing the circle that had begun so many years ago in that quiet churchyard. The knight hesitated, unwilling to let go of such a powerful symbol, but eventually, honoring his king's final wish, he threw the sword into the lake. As it touched the water, a hand rose mysteriously from beneath the surface, catching the sword and pulling it gently back into the depths, returning it to the magical forces that had granted it long ago. Arthur, hearing this, closed his eyes peacefully, knowing his legacy was complete. According to old legends, Arthur did not simply die that day, but was carried away to a mystical island called Avalon to rest and heal, waiting quietly for a future day when Britain would need him again. Whether myth or memory, King Arthur's story remained alive in the hearts of his people, a story of humble beginnings, honorable leadership, painful betrayal, and unwavering courage. Even today, centuries later, his story reminds us that true greatness is not found in the sword you hold, but in the honor, fairness, and kindness with which you choose to use it. If this legendary story moved you, please subscribe for more incredible Tylees, and share it with someone who deserves to hear it.